Hi guys, my name is Christine and I'm a dating, relationship and personal development coach, and today I'm talking about why you must ignore your ex. Okay, so most of the time, most cases, it's never a good idea to get back with your ex, and sometimes the best thing to do is, if an ex ever reaches back out to you, is to actually just ignore them. Because what you got to do really is, because a lot of people come to my channel because they want an ex back, or they want to make their ex regret dumping them and things like that. A lot of people want their ex back, basically. And sometimes, though, the best thing to do is to go back to that time when, just before the relationship ended, the last couple of weeks, especially those last 24 hours before you broke up. And you want to think about how it felt, right? Because a lot of people, especially when they're wanting their ex back, they look back at the beginning of the relationship. They look back when it was good, and they look back on that with nostalgia, hoping that one day they'll be able to get that back, And I feel like a lot of people look at that when they make the mistake to go back with their ex, if their ex ever gets back in contact with them, because they're thinking, oh, yeah, some of those times were so good. And they fail to look at the times that were bad, and those last few moments basically together where things really hit the fan. So what you got to do is look back on those times. You got to remember the hurt, the anger. Maybe you two were having a lot of arguments. Maybe there was a lot of tears. Maybe you were upset. Maybe you cried, and maybe you cried a lot of times. Because that's something that definitely happened with me when I broke up with my ex in my first ever proper relationship. It was awful. Those last few weeks were awful. I was so sad. I was crying nearly every day. I was upset. I was angry. I felt badly treated. I felt unappreciated. I was really feeling it, And you got to do that. You got to really feel what you was feeling during that time, because most of the time, when something happens, even when you were dumped, a lot of the time, you were probably thinking, the cases I've seen at least, a lot of both people were basically thinking of breaking up with each other anyway, because of all the problems that they were facing. So not only maybe they were the one that broke up with you, but you was probably already thinking about breaking up with them at some point as well, and hoping that the relationship would end, even if it was just secretly in the back of your mind. But when you get dumped, the quote that I learned from Tony Robbins is, rejection breeds obsession. So usually when you get rejected or you get dumped, it's the same. It works for being dumped as well. You get obsessed. You start to think back on when things were good, and it hurts your ego basically to be dumped and to be rejected in that sort of way. And so I don't know why it is, but it's some sort of like reverse psychology, where if you get rejected, or dumped, and you wanted that to happen anyway, you still kind of feel like, oh, but I want to kind of get them back. I wanted them to fall back in love with me, because we have this like side of us that just wants to, I think as human beings, we just have this side of us that is very competitive, very, I want to conquer this situation. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of people do want their exes back. It's not because they actually do want their exes back. It's because they're looking at the relationship with nostalgia, and their ego got a bit wounded, and as a competitive human, they're wanting to get their ex back because they're trying to prove a point to themselves or to their ex or to someone else, right? So you got to think back on those horrible times, basically. The reasons why you wanted to break up. And that's one of the reasons why you should ignore your ex if your ex ever reaches out to you, because you got to remember the bad times, right? Because more than likely, and I've seen this a lot, when people do actually end up going back with their exes, it only lasts like another couple of months, and then it just ends again, because they fall back into old habits. They realize that neither of each other has changed, and things aren't going to get better. It may have been good for those first few weeks when they got back together, but it ended eventually anyway. And this is something that I found as well. When I was in my first relationship, I broke up with her because she cheated on me, and then I got back with her. And it was good for a little while, but then it just got worse and worse and worse until it eventually ended and I dumped her for good. So, these are the kinds of things that you need to take into consideration and realize that, if we get back together, is it actually going to be any better? Or is it actually going to be like how it was? Or it's going to lead to how it was when the relationship actually ended in those last few weeks we were together. You got to remember the painful stuff and not look back on it with nostalgia and thinking about the good times that happened at the beginning of the relationship. So another reason why you must ignore your ex is that, with all things considered, with what I just said, is that it proves a point to your ex that you're not interested in getting back with them. Because if you ghost them, you leave them on red, things like that, or you block their number, whatever it may be, it shows to them that you're not going to communicate with them, you're not willing to have anything with them, and it's over. You're trying to tell them in so many words, in no words, basically, that it's over. Now, you may want to maybe say something if you want to. You can finalize it by saying, look, it's over, I'm not interested in talking to you, if you want to. But I don't think there's really too much of a point doing that when, especially if they were the one that dumped you. Like, it was their choice, right? So why come back? But obviously it's up to you what you want to do. I personally, if an ex ever reached out to me, I personally wouldn't communicate with them in any way, because obviously I'm married, so I feel like it would be unethical to reply to an ex when you're in a relationship or when you're married to someone else. But if you're single and you're not in a relationship, then maybe you could, because you're not going to be hurting anyone else's feelings by doing so, even if it is saying something like, sorry, it's over. So obviously it's up to you whether you want to say something finalizing to them like that. But, there's no harm either in just ignoring them. You don't have to contact them, I know some people might be thinking, well, it's mature to say, something to them, to say, sorry, it's over, I'm not interested in getting back together, I'm not interested in talking to you anymore. But, it's still also your life. If talking to them, if engaging with them in any sort of way is going to hurt you and harm you in some way, and it's going to make you emotionally feel bad, then I don't think personally in that kind of scenario there's anything wrong with leaving them on red, in ghosting them or blocking them or doing something like that. There's no harm in it if you're doing it to protect your mental state. So another reason why you might want to ignore your ex is, obviously this one kind of depends on who your ex is, but it may be the case that they have an ulterior motive, especially if you do want to get back with them and maybe they've got an inkling that you want to get back with them, and they may be reaching out to you because they're hoping that you're going to, give them an outpouring of love and it's going to give them an ego boost. So that's something else as well. So you want to be very careful. Obviously, you'll know your ex better than what I do. So, if they're the kind of person that would do something like that, to reach out to you, to give you a little bit of hope that things might work out again, in order to get a bit of an ego boost, in order to get your attention so they can feel better about themselves, then that's obviously another big reason why you must not reply or respond to your ex if they ever reach out to you as well. Well, what's the exception then? And I've talked about this relatively recently as well. But, the exception of, responding to your ex and not ignoring them, especially if you want to get back together with them as well and you want things to work out, is, maybe the breakup happened due to a misunderstanding. Like, this is the only sort of thing that I've come to see and come to realize of how it could actually work out for you in the end. And it all depends on how the breakup happened, and if it was just down to a misunderstanding, like someone got in the way, you had like a snake of a friend who said something bad about you that wasn't true, and it was all just a big misunderstanding, in that kind of way, right, where someone has got involved and made stuff up about you, or your ex perhaps misunderstood something that you did, perhaps they thought that you cheated on them when you really didn't, things like that. Those are all come under like misunderstandings. So, and and if you were happy before that, like, again, you think back on the last month, especially the last 24 hours of your relationship, were you happy? Was things okay? Were you upset? You got to think about those things, and you got to think about all those little parts of the relationship and what was happening at the end. And you've got to really, really take time to look at that and think about that and think, well, is this all just down to a misunderstanding, or was the relationship just hell? Was we just not compatible? Did things not work out? Were we just not right for each other? Were we arguing a lot? Was they upset? Was I upset? Was I hoping that the relationship was going to end secretly anyway? You got to think about those things. And if he wasn't, and if he was happy, and you didn't want the relationship to end, and it was all just a misunderstanding, and both of you were happy until the misunderstanding happened, then that's more of a reason why you should try and get back with your ex. More of a reason as to why you should not ignore them and to respond to them if they do get in contact with you. But again, that kind of thing rarely happens. It's usually down to, a big mismatch in lifestyle, a big mismatch in values, and that's usually what takes down the relationship, where you kind of start living two separate lives, or you just have so many different interests that aren't the same. You're not communicating, you don't want the same things in life. That's the big reasons why you should stay apart. Because it may be the case that you're someone who, maybe you're like really, really romantic and she's just not, or he's just not. You want romance, you want, flowers, and you want to dance with each other, or whatever it may be, whatever romance is for you. And perhaps they just didn't give that to you. Perhaps they were really cold. Perhaps they were a bit of a cold fish, or something like that. You got to think about these things. Or it could be that you wanted kids and they didn't want kids, or they wanted to get married but you didn't want to get married, or you love to go out and exercise and be healthy but they like to stay home and eat pizza. You've got to think about those things. If you live completely different lives, then it's better for you guys to stay separated and to not get back, and you should ignore your ex if they do reach out to you, or you need to tell them that it's over and you're not interested in getting back together. So those are my thoughts on, why you must ignore your ex. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to get in touch with me personally and you'd like coaching with me, then please go to www.christineloveridge.com. Thank you so much for watching, and I shall talk to you again very soon. Goodbye.